You open your eyes to a gentle, golden haze. The air is warm, but not too warm, just the right temperature for a nap you never quite finished. You're standing in the heart of ancient Rome, but not the Rome of marble palaces and grand speeches. No, you're in a quieter corner, where the city's real heartbeat thumps. The insulae, the Roman apartment buildings. You can almost hear the soft hum of voices, the clatter of wooden sandals on stone, and the distant, hopeful call of a bread seller who's already lost count of his loaves. You take a slow breath. The air smells like olive oil, dust, and a hint of something you can't quite place. Maybe it's the neighbor's dinner, or perhaps it's just history itself. You look up. The building in front of you is taller than you expected. 5 stories, maybe 6 if you count the attic rooms squeezed under the roof. The walls are a patchwork of faded plaster and exposed brick, with laundry lines zigzagging like a spider's web. You spot a tunic flapping in the breeze, and you wonder if it's ever been washed, or if it's just been aired out since the reign of Augustus. You hear a baby crying somewhere above, and a dog barking below. Welcome to the insula, Rome's answer to the modern apartment block, but with more leaks and fewer complaints to the landlord. You probably won't make it through this day without tripping over a chamber pot or two. As you step inside, the world transforms. The light dims, replaced by the soft glow of oil lamps and the flicker of sunlight sneaking through cracks in the walls. The air is thick with the scent of humanity, sweat, bread, and the ever-present tang of fish sauce. Voices echo up the stairwell, each one a different language or dialect. Greek, Latin, maybe even a bit of Egyptian. Rome is a city of strangers, and the insula is where they all converge, whether they like it or not. This melting pot of cultures and languages, along with the shared superstitions like the belief in household gods, gives the insula a unique and vibrant character. As you walk past a group of children playing knucklebones in the hallway, one of them, a toothless grin lighting up his face, warns you about the slippery stairs. You thank him and he returns to his game. The stairs, worn smooth by thousands of feet and probably a few spilled amphorae of wine, are indeed slippery. You grip the railing, which is more a suggestion than a railing, and start to climb. These everyday interactions, from the children's warning to the woman's whispered gossip about the noisy Greeks upstairs, create a sense of community and shared experience in the insula. Here's your first central historical fact. Most Romans didn't live in villas or palaces. They lived in these insulae packed together like olives in a jar. Some buildings held over 200 people, all stacked on top of each other, sharing walls, floors, and the occasional rat. The ground floor was the most desirable, cooler in summer, warmer in winter, and closest to the shops. The higher you went, the cheaper the rent, but the greater the risk of a sudden, gravity-assisted trip to the street below. Historians still debate whether the top floors were reserved for people with low incomes or just for those who liked a good view and didn't mind a little exercise. You pause on the second floor, where a woman is sweeping her doorstep with a bundle of twigs. She nods at you, then leans in conspiratorially. "Don't mind the noise from upstairs," she whispers. "They're Greeks. They argue about everything." You smile and she winks, as if to say, "We're all in this together." You notice a small shrine tucked into a corner, with a clay lamp and a handful of dried figs. The Romans believed in household gods, Laras and Penates, who were supposed to watch over the home. Every family had their own, and every insula had its flavor of superstition. Some people left offerings of wine or bread. Others just hoped the gods were too busy to notice their late rent. You keep climbing, and the building creaks around you. You wonder if it's the wind or just the weight of so many lives stacked on top of each other. You pass a door with a painted sign, Fuller's Workshop, Laundry and Dyeing. The smell is unforgettable. You try not to breathe too deeply. Here's your obscure fact. Roman laundries used urine to clean clothes. Yes, you heard that right. People collected it in jars on street corners, and the Fullers used it to bleach tunics and togas. It's not exactly Tide Pods, but it gets the job done. You make a mental note to never complain about your laundry again. You reach the 3rd floor and the hallway narrows. You have to turn sideways to let a man carrying a basket of figs squeeze past. He mutters something about stairs being the real test of Roman citizenship. You laugh, and he grins, sweat beading on his forehead. You hear a baby giggle from behind a curtain, and the sound is so pure, so ordinary, that you almost forget you're in ancient Rome. For a moment, you could be anywhere: a New York walk-up, a Parisian garret, a Tokyo micro-apartment. The details change, but the feeling is the same. People living together, making do. You pause to rest by a window. The view, while mostly rooftops and laundry, also includes a distant sight of the Forum, a blur of columns and chaos. You hear a rooster crow, even though it's well past dawn. Roosters in Rome, you realize, have no respect for time zones. You watch a woman on the roof across the street, hanging out a blanket. She waves and you wave back. This view from the window, with its blend of everyday life and distant cityscape, provides a sense of the insula's place within the city and its social dynamics. You won't make it through this day without a few surprises. But that's the fun of it. Every hallway, every doorway, every creaky stair has a story. Some are funny, some are sad, and some are just plain weird. Like the time a goat wandered into the atrium and refused to leave until someone offered it a figure. Or the neighbor who swore he saw a ghost in the stairwell, only to realize it was just his mother-in-law in a new tunic. Before we go any further, let's take a moment. If you're enjoying this sleepy stroll through Roman history, please like and subscribe. It helps us keep the oil lamps burning and the stories flowing. And if you're still awake, leave a comment with your location and the local time. We love knowing where our fellow time travelers are tuning in from. Now let's relax on tonight's ride. The insula is waiting, and there's so much more to see. You take another step, and the story continues, soft and slow, like the city itself. You keep moving, your feet echoing softly on the worn stone steps. The building seems to breathe around you, settling and shifting as the day drifts lazily along. You pass a door that's slightly ajar, and the smell of lentil stew drifts out, warm and earthy. Someone inside is humming. A tune you don't recognize, but it's gentle, almost like a lullaby. You pause, listening, and for a moment you feel like you're eavesdropping on a secret. But in the insula, privacy is a rare luxury. Walls are thin, and secrets have a way of leaking out, just like the rain on a bad day. You reach the 4th floor, and the air is a little cooler, a little thinner. You hear a burst of laughter from behind a curtain, followed by the unmistakable sound of a clay cup shattering. That's the 3rd one this week, someone groans. You smile. Life in the insula is never quiet for long. You peek through a crack in the curtain and see a group of young men gathered around a low table, playing dice. One of them looks up and winks. Care to join? The only thing you'll lose is your dignity. You shake your head, but you're tempted. Gambling is as old as Rome itself and just as risky. Historians still debate whether the Romans invented the phrase, "the house always wins," but it's clear they understood the concept. You move on, careful not to trip over a stray sandal. The hallway here is lined with little niches. Some hold oil lamps, others are stuffed with odds and ends. A broken comb, a chipped cup, a half-finished letter. You wonder about the people who left these things behind. Did they move out or move on? In the insula, people come and go like the tide. Some stay for years, others for just a season. The rent is cheap, but the walls remember everyone. You stop at a door painted a cheerful red. A woman opens it before you can knock. She's older, with silver hair pulled back in a neat braid. She smiles, her eyes crinkling. "Looking for someone?" she asks. You shake your head, and she laughs. No one ever is, but everyone finds someone. She invites you in, and you step into a tiny room filled with sunlight and the smell of fresh bread. She introduces herself as Livia, and she's lived here for 20 years. Long enough to see 3 landlords and 4 floods, she says, pouring you a cup of watered wine. And I'm still here. The trick is to keep your head down and your bread dry. Here's your central historical fact for this section. Roman insulae were often built quickly and cheaply, with little regard for safety. Fires were common, and entire blocks could go up in smoke overnight. The Emperor Augustus even passed laws to limit the height of these buildings, but landlords found ways to circumvent the rules. Some added extra floors in secret or built out over the street, creating a maze of overhangs and shadows. It's a miracle any of these buildings stayed standing at all. Scholars still argue about how many insulae collapsed each year, but everyone agrees. Living here was a gamble in more ways than one. Livia offers you a slice of bread, still warm from the oven. You take a bite, and it's surprisingly good, crusty on the outside, soft in the middle. She tells you about her neighbors. The baker downstairs who sings at dawn, the Greek family next door who argue about philosophy, and the young couple upstairs who never seem to sleep. It's like living in a beehive, she says. Noisy, busy, but everyone has their place. She points to a small window overlooking the street. Watch, she says. You'll see the whole city pass by. You lean out and look down. The street is alive with movement. Vendors shout, children chase each other, and a donkey ambles past, looking as tired as you feel. You spot a man selling garum, the famous Roman fish sauce. He waves a ladle in the air, promising it will make any meal taste better. You're not convinced. Here's your obscure fact. Garum was produced by fermenting fish guts in the sun for months. The smell was legendary, and not in a good way. Some Romans loved it. Others held their noses and hoped for the best. You decide to stick with bread. Livia laughs at your expression. You get used to it, she says. Or you move. She tells you about the time a barrel of garum broke open in the hallway. We smelled like fish for a week. Even the cats complained. You both laugh, and for a moment, the insula feels like home. You thank Livia and step back into the hallway. The light is softer now, slanting through the windows in golden stripes. You hear the distant sound of a flute, and someone singing a song about lost love and found bread. You smile. In the insula, music is everywhere. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes off-key, but always present. It's the soundtrack of daily life, echoing up and down the stairwells. You keep climbing, feeling the building sway ever so slightly. You wonder if it's your imagination or if the insula does move with the wind. Historians still debate whether these buildings were as rickety as they seem or if the stories have grown taller with time. Either way, you grip the railing a little tighter. You reach the 5th floor, and the air is cooler, almost fresh. You hear a cat meowing, and you spot it perched on a windowsill, watching the world with lazy indifference. You scratch its head, and it purrs, content to let you share its view. You look out over the rooftops, and for a moment you feel like you're floating above the city. The insula may be crowded, noisy, and a little bit dangerous, but it's also alive, buzzing with stories and secrets. You take a deep breath, letting the sounds and smells of the insula wash over you. You're not sure what comes next, but you're ready to find out. After all, in a place like this, anything can happen. And if you're lucky, you might even make it through the day with your dignity and your sandals intact. Ready to see what's behind the next door? Let's keep going, slow and steady, like a Roman on a lazy afternoon. You step away from the window, leaving the cat to its rooftop kingdom. The hallway narrows again, and you have to duck under a low beam. Someone has hung a bunch of dried herbs from it, sage, rosemary, maybe a little mint. The smell is sharp and clean, a welcome change from the usual insula perfume. You wonder if it's meant to ward off evil spirits or just bad cooking. In Rome, it's often hard to tell the difference. You take a deep breath, and for a moment you almost feel like you're in a countryside garden, not a crowded city block. But then a door slams somewhere below, and the spell is broken. You pass a door with a faded painting of Mercury, the messenger god. The paint is chipped, but you can still make out his winged sandals and sly smile. You knock, and a young man answers, his hands stained with ink. He introduces himself as Marcus, a scribe who copies letters for people who can't write. "Business is good," he says, "especially when the neighbors are feuding." He invites you in, and you step into a room filled with scrolls, wax tablets, and the faint smell of lamp oil. There's a small desk by the window, covered in scraps of parchment and half-melted candles. You notice a pile of letters tied with a string, each one a different color. Marcus grins. "Red for love, blue for business, green for apologies. I like to keep things organized. It's the only way to survive in this place. Marcus shows you his latest project, a love letter for the baker's daughter downstairs. He's written her 3 times this week, Marcus says, rolling his eyes. If he spent as much time baking as he does writing, we'd all be fatter. You laugh and Marcus grins. Love makes fools of us all, even in Latin. He offers you a seat on a wobbly stool, and you watch as he carefully copies a poem onto a scrap of parchment. His handwriting is neat, almost beautiful, and you wonder how many secrets have passed through his hands. You ask if he ever reads the letters he writes. He shrugs. Sometimes. However, most of the time I ensure the spelling is correct. No one wants to declare their undying love and accidentally insult someone's mother. Here's your central historical fact. Literacy in ancient Rome was surprisingly common, especially in the city. Many people could read and write at least a little, and those who couldn't hired scribes like Marcus to do it for them. Letters, contracts, shopping lists, everything was written down. The insula was a hive of communication, with messages flying up and down the stairs like carrier pigeons. Historians still debate how many Romans were truly literate, but everyone agrees. Words had power, and the correct letter could change a life. You imagine a world where every argument, every romance, and every business deal is scribbled down and passed through hands like Marcus's. It's a little like social media, but with more wax and fewer emojis. Marcus tells you about his neighbors. The old soldier who lives next door, the widow who bakes honey cakes, and the young couple who argue about everything from politics to laundry. It's never boring, he says. No one here has secrets for long. He leans in, lowering his voice. Did you hear about the fishmonger on the 2nd floor? They say he's hiding a pet monkey. I haven't seen it, but I've heard the screeching. You raise an eyebrow and Marcus shrugs. In the insula, anything is possible. You try to picture a monkey swinging from the laundry lines, and you can't help but smile. If you ever needed proof that Rome was a city of surprises, this is it. Here's your obscure fact. Some Romans did keep exotic pets, from monkeys to peacocks to snakes. The city was a crossroads of the world, and you never knew what might turn up in your neighbor's apartment. You make a mental note to listen for monkey noises on your way down. You ask Marcus if he's ever wanted a pet. He laughs. I can barely keep my ink from drying out. A monkey would be a disaster. Besides, the landlord doesn't allow animals. Not that it stops anyone. You thank Marcus and step back into the hallway. The light is fading now, turning the walls a soft, sleepy gold. You hear the distant clang of a bell, signaling the end of the workday. Doors open, and people spill into the hall, chatting, laughing, and sharing news and gossip. You feel the insula come alive, like a beehive at sunset. Someone is singing a song about lost love and found bread. You can't quite catch the words, but the melody is sweet and a little sad. You pass a group of women gathered around a basket of laundry. They're swapping stories and jokes, their laughter echoing up the stairwell. One of them waves you over. Care to help? She asks, holding out a damp tunic. You shake your head, and she laughs. Smart choice. These stains are older than the empire. You smile, feeling the warmth of their welcome. In the insula, everyone is a neighbor whether you like it or not. You ask if they've heard about the monkey. They all nod, and one woman whispers, I heard it stole a fig from the baker's cart. Smart little thing. You wonder if the monkey is the true ruler of the insula. You keep moving, your steps slow and steady. You pass a door with a painted sign, Barber. No appointments, no complaints. Inside, a man is trimming another's beard, both of them arguing about the best chariot team in the Circus Maximus. Red is faster, one insists. Blue has better horses, the other counters. You wonder if anyone ever wins these debates, or if they keep going like the chariots themselves. You're tempted to join in, but you decide to save your energy for the next adventure. You reach the top floor, and the air is cool and fresh. The roof is flat with a low wall around the edge. You step out, and the city spreads before you, rooftops and domes glowing in the evening light. You hear the distant roar of the crowd from the amphitheater, the soft murmur of prayers from a nearby temple, and the gentle clatter of dishes as families settle in for dinner. You sit on the edge of the roof, your feet dangling over the side. You feel the city's heartbeat, slow and steady, like your own. The insula may be crowded and noisy, but up here, it feels peaceful, almost magical. You watch the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. You take a deep breath, letting the cool air fill your lungs. You're not sure what tomorrow will bring, but for now, you're content. The insula has welcomed you, with all its quirks and chaos. You close your eyes, listening to the city's lullaby, and you feel yourself drifting, slow and easy, into the heart of Rome. Ready to see what happens after dark? The insula has secrets yet to share. Let's stay a little longer and see what the night brings. As night falls gently over the island, the city's energy shifts, and you become part of a larger community. The sun's last rays slip away, replaced by the soft glow of oil lamps and the flicker of torches in the street below. The air cools, carrying the scent of roasting chestnuts and the distant tang of wood smoke. You hear the city settle, doors closing, voices softening, footsteps slowing. But the insula is never truly quiet. Even now, life hums behind every door, a patchwork of stories stitched together by thin walls and thinner patience. You linger on the rooftop, watching as the stars appear, one by one, above the jumble of tiles and chimneys. Rome's sky is never completely dark. There's always a lantern burning somewhere, always a neighbor awake. You spot a group of children chasing fireflies along the edge of the roof, their laughter floating up like music. One of them waves at you, daring you to join their game. You shake your head, smiling. You're not sure your sandals or your nerves could handle a rooftop race tonight. Besides, you're pretty sure your insurance doesn't cover ancient Roman rooftop tag. You hear a soft voice behind you. It's an older man, wrapped in a faded cloak, carrying a basket of figs. He sits beside you, offering you one. "Best eaten under the stars," he says, his voice as gentle as the night. You take a fig, its skin cool and sweet, and bite into it. The taste is simple, earthy, and somehow perfect. The older man sighs. "I've lived in this building since I was a boy. I've seen more neighbors come and go than I can count. Some left for better jobs, some for better weather, and some just for quieter walls." He chuckles. "But none ever found a place quite like this." He points out the different rooftops, naming the families who live beneath each one. "That's the Sabinus family, always arguing about olives. Over there, the twins who play the flute at sunrise, don't ask them to stop. They never will. And that window with the blue curtain? That's where the best gossip in Rome is born." You realize that, up here, the insula is like a living map, each window a story, each rooftop a chapter. You feel a sense of belonging, knowing that these are not just stories but shared experiences that unite the community. Here's your central historical fact. Roman insulae were not just places to sleep. They were entire communities stacked on top of each other. These multi-story apartment buildings were a common form of housing in ancient Rome, especially for the lower classes. People shared kitchens, courtyards, and sometimes even beds. The wealthier tenants on the lower floors might have their rooms, but most people lived in single, crowded spaces with families sleeping side by side. Privacy was rare, and personal space was a luxury. Historians still debate how many people could be accommodated in a single insula, but estimates range from a few dozen to several hundred. If you think your apartment is crowded, imagine sharing it with 3 generations, 2 goats, and a very opinionated parrot. The older man points to a window across the way, where a woman is lighting a lamp. "That's Julia. She's a midwife, delivered half the babies in this building, and probably a few of the cats, too." He grins, and you can't help but laugh. She knows everyone's secrets, but she never tells, unless you bring her a good loaf of bread. You watch as Julia moves from window to window, checking on her neighbors, her lamp a tiny beacon in the night. Here's your obscure fact. In some Roman insulae, residents formed their little clubs or associations, called collegia. These groups organized festivals, shared meals, and even contributed to the cost of funerals. They were a way to survive the chaos of city life, a little bit of order in a world that often felt out of control. The collegia also served as a form of social support, providing a sense of community and belonging in the crowded insulae. You wonder if your neighbors would chip in for your funeral or fight over your leftover figs. The older man laughs when you ask. Depends on the figs, he says. And the neighbors. He stands, stretching his back. Time to head inside. The night air is good for the soul but bad for the bones. He pats your shoulder and disappears down the stairs, his basket swinging at his side. You linger a moment longer, watching the city breathe. Somewhere below, a dog barks and a baby cries. Life goes on even after dark. You make your way back down the stairs, careful not to trip in the dim light. The hallway is quieter now, but you hear the soft murmur of voices behind closed doors. You pass a room where a family is gathered around a low table, sharing a late meal. The smell of lentils and garlic drifts out, making your stomach rumble. Someone is telling a story, and the children listen with wide eyes, their faces lit by the glow of a single lamp. You catch a few words, something about a hero, a monster, and a very clever donkey. You smile. Every family has its legends, passed down like heirlooms. You keep moving, your footsteps soft on the worn stones. You pass a door with a painted laurel wreath. Someone is celebrating a birthday. Laughter spills into the hallway, along with the sound of a flute. You pause, listening. The music is simple, but it fills the space with warmth. You wonder if the neighbors mind or if they've learned to sleep through anything. In the insula, you either adapt or invest in very thick earplugs. If only the Romans had invented them. You admire the adaptability of the residents of the insula, who have learned to live in harmony despite the chaos. You reach your door and slip inside. The room is small but cozy, with a straw mattress in the corner and a single oil lamp flickering on the shelf. You sit on the edge of the bed, listening to the sounds of the building. The creak of wood, the distant laughter, the soft sigh of the wind through the cracks. You feel safe, cocooned by the insula's walls and the gentle chaos of your neighbors. Historians still debate whether life in the insula was miserable or just different. Some say it was a daily struggle. Others say it was a vibrant community. Maybe it was both. You decide it doesn't matter. Tonight, you're part of something bigger. A living, breathing patchwork of stories, stitched together by laughter, music, and the occasional midnight fig. You lie back, letting the sounds of the insula lull you towards sleep. But the night is young, and the building has more secrets to share. You close your eyes, ready for whatever comes next. After all, in a place like this, even dreams have neighbors. And if you hear a monkey screeching in the night, remember, in the insula, that's practically a lullaby. You wake to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. It's still dark, but the city is already stirring. Someone is sweeping the stairs, the bristles of their broom whispering against the stone. The insula, a multi-story apartment building with a central courtyard, never really sleeps. It just dozes, waiting for the next day to begin. The faint smell of bread baking in a nearby kitchen wafts through the air, mingling with the sound of the broom and the soft glow of the oil lamp in your room. You sit up, stretching your arms. The room is cool, the air tinged with the scent of last night's lamp oil and this morning's bread. You hear a rooster crow somewhere far off, a familiar sound that marks the beginning of a new day in the insula. It could be a different rooster, or it could be a very ambitious bird with a lot of opinions about sunrise. You make a mental note to thank the rooster for its dedication to the art of alarm clocks. You step into the hallway, blinking in the dim light. The building feels different in the early morning, quieter, softer, as if it's holding its breath. You pass a neighbor carrying a basket of laundry, her hair still wrapped in a scarf. She nods at you, her eyes half closed. "Morning," she mumbles. "Don't trip on the stairs. Someone spilled olive oil again." You thank her, making a mental note to walk carefully. In the insula, the stairs are always a little bit dangerous, especially before breakfast. You wonder if the Romans ever invented a wet floor sign, or if they just relied on neighborly warnings and bruised shins. Here's your central historical fact. The daily routine in a Roman insula started early. Most people rose before dawn, eager to get a head start on the day's work. Shops opened with the first light, and the streets filled with vendors, artisans, and customers. The insula was a hive of activity, with people coming and going at all hours. This routine was not just a matter of personal preference, but a necessity in a city where daylight was the primary source of light and work hours were dictated by the sun's position. If you wanted to sleep in, you needed a good excuse or very thick walls. The city's rhythm was relentless, and everyone had to keep up or risk being left behind. This was the daily life in a Roman insula, a testament to the industriousness and adaptability of the ancient Romans. You make your way down the stairs, passing doors that are just beginning to open. You catch glimpses of life inside. A mother braiding her daughter's hair, a man sharpening a knife, and a boy chasing a chicken around the room. You hear the clatter of pots, the splash of water, and the soft hum of a lullaby. The building is waking up one story at a time. You pass a window where a woman is already kneading dough, her hands moving in a steady, rhythmic motion. She glances up and smiles, flour dusting her cheeks like war paint. You reach the ground floor where the real action is. The atrium is crowded with people. Neighbors greeting each other, children playing, vendors setting up their stalls. The baker is already at work, his oven glowing in the corner. He waves at you, flour dusting his hair like snow. "Try the honey cakes," he calls. "Best in the city." You take one, warm and sticky, and bite into it. The taste is sweet with just a hint of spice. You wonder if the recipe is a family secret or if every baker in Rome claims to have the best cakes. You decide that, in the insula, every baker is a champion, at least until the next batch burns. Here's your obscure fact. Some Roman bakers added poppy seeds or even bits of cheese to their bread and cakes. It was a way to stretch the ingredients and add a little variety to the daily diet, a testament to the ancient Romans' resourcefulness and creativity. You look at your honey cake, wondering what surprises might be hidden inside. You decide not to ask. Sometimes, it's better to let breakfast remain a mystery. You take another bite, savoring the unexpected crunch of a poppy seed, and silently thank the baker for his creativity. You wander through the atrium, watching as the building comes alive. A group of children is playing a game with pebbles, their laughter echoing off the walls. An older woman is selling herbs from a basket, her hands moving quickly as she ties little bundles of sage and thyme. A man with a cart full of clay pots is arguing with a neighbor about the price of water. You realize that the insula is more than just a building. It's a world, complete with its own rules, routines, and rituals. It's a place of endless variety, where every day brings something new and unexpected. You spot the monkey from last night, perched on a windowsill, munching on a stolen figure. You wave and it waves back. Or maybe it's just shooing away a fly. Historians still debate the social skills of Roman monkeys. You step outside, blinking in the morning light. The street is busy, filled with the sounds of the city. You hear the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the call of a fishmonger, and the distant rumble of a cart. You take a deep breath, letting the smells and sounds of Rome wash over you. For a moment, you feel like you belong here, part of the endless dance of daily life. You watch as a group of neighbors gather around a street musician, tossing coins into his hat and clapping along to his tune. Even in the chaos, there's a sense of community, a feeling that, no matter what, you're never alone. Historians continue to debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a community hub. Some say it was crowded and dangerous. Others say it was lively and full of opportunity. Maybe it was both. You decide it doesn't matter. Today, you're part of the story, and the day is just beginning. You turn back to the insula, ready to see what the morning brings. The building stands tall, its walls glowing in the early light. You smile, knowing that whatever happens next, you're not just a visitor, but a part of this vibrant community. You belong here, and the day is just beginning. Ready to explore the insula's secrets in the daylight? Let's step inside and see what stories the morning has to offer. You step back inside the insula, the morning sun following you through the doorway. The light dances on the walls, making the faded paint and old cracks look almost beautiful. You hear the familiar sounds of daily life. A broom sweeping, a pot clanging, and a child's giggle echoing down the hall. The building feels alive, as if it's stretching and yawning along with its residents. You wonder if the insula ever gets tired of holding so many stories or if it secretly enjoys the chaos. The insula is a lively place, always buzzing with activity, keeping you engaged and excited. You wander down the hallway, passing open doors and friendly faces. A young boy runs past you, clutching a wooden toy chariot. He's followed by his little sister, who's determined to catch him before he reaches the stairs. "No racing in the halls," a woman calls, but her voice is more amused than angry. You smile, feeling the warmth of this community, remembering your childhood games, though you're pretty sure your toys never survived a tumble down 5 flights of stairs. You pause at a doorway where a group of women is gathered, their hands busy with wool and thread. They're spinning and weaving, their fingers moving quickly as they chat about the latest news. One of them looks up and waves you over. "Come sit," she says, patting a stool. "We could use another pair of hands." You sit and she hands you a spindle. You try to spin the wool, but it quickly turns into a tangled mess. The women laugh, not unkindly. "Don't worry," one says. "Everyone starts with knots." You realize that, in the insula, mistakes are just another way to make friends. Here's your central historical fact. Roman women, especially those living in insulae, often worked together on household tasks. Spinning, weaving, and mending were daily chores, providing a chance to share stories, offer advice, and exchange the occasional bit of gossip. These gatherings were the social glue of the building, connecting neighbors and building friendships that lasted a lifetime. Historians still debate the extent to which Roman women devoted time to textile work, but there is general agreement that it was a central part of their daily lives. As you fumble with the spindle, the women tell you about their families, their hopes, and their worries. One is saving up for a new pair of sandals, another dreams of visiting the Forum, and a third wants her children to stop fighting over the last figure. You listen, feeling the rhythm of their voices and the gentle clack of the loom. Soothing, almost hypnotic. You could fall asleep right here, surrounded by wool and laughter. One of the women leans in, her eyes twinkling. "Did you hear about the new neighbor on the 3rd floor?" she whispers. "He's from Alexandria. They say he brought a crocodile with him." The others gasp, and you try not to look too surprised. Here's your obscure fact. Romans loved exotic animals, and it wasn't unheard of for wealthy or eccentric residents to keep unusual pets, even in crowded apartment buildings. Crocodiles, monkeys, and even peacocks sometimes made appearances in the insula, much to the delight or horror of their neighbors. You make a mental note to avoid the 3rd floor, just in case. The conversation drifts to other topics. The price of olive oil, the best way to get stains out of tunics, and whether the baker's new apprentice is as handsome as everyone says. You realize that, in the insula, news travels faster than the wind. If you sneeze on the 1st floor, someone on the 5th will bless you before you even finish. These shared experiences make you feel like you belong here, part of a larger narrative, part of a community that is always there for each other. You thank the women for their company and continue down the hall. You pass a man repairing a broken stool, his tools spread out on a cloth. He nods at you, then holds up a crooked leg. "Built to last," he jokes. "As long as you don't sit on it." You laugh and he grins. In the insula, everything gets fixed eventually, or it gets replaced with something even more broken. You wonder if that's true for people too. You reach the courtyard at the center of the building. It's a small, sunlit space, filled with potted plants and a few scraggly trees. Children are playing a game with pebbles, their laughter ringing out like bells. An older woman sits on a bench, feeding crumbs to a flock of pigeons. She smiles at you, her eyes bright. "They come every morning," she says, tossing another handful of crumbs. "They know where to find a good meal." You sit beside her, watching the birds peck and flutter. For a moment, the world feels simple and safe, the tranquility of the courtyard enveloping you, bringing a sense of calm and peace. Historians continue to debate the extent of green space in Roman insulae. Some say courtyards were common. Others say they were a luxury. Either way, you're grateful for this little patch of sunlight and shade. It's a reminder that, even in the busiest city, there's always room for a bit of nature. You close your eyes, listening to the sounds of the courtyard. The cooing of pigeons, the laughter of children, the distant hum of the city. You feel the insula's heartbeat, steady and strong. You're part of its story now, woven into the fabric of daily life. Ready to see what the rest of the day brings? The insula is full of surprises, and you're just getting started. You leave the courtyard, feeling refreshed by the sunlight and the company of pigeons. The insula, a bustling hive of activity, appears even more bustling now as the day approaches its peak. The clatter of pots from a kitchen, the sharp call of a vendor selling fresh fruit, and the steady rhythm of a carpenter's hammer somewhere above. All these sounds are not just noise but a symphony of community life. The building is alive with activity, each floor humming with its energy, and you are a part of it. You wander up a flight of stairs, careful to avoid a puddle of water left by someone cleaning their doorstep. The air is filled with the scent of herbs and baking bread, mixed with the less pleasant aroma of yesterday's fish. You wrinkle your nose, but you keep moving. In the insula, you learn to take the good with the bad, and to breathe through your mouth when necessary. You pass a slightly open door and you peek inside. A group of men is gathered around a table, deep in conversation. They're arguing about politics, their voices rising and falling like a chorus. One of them spots you and waves you in. Come, join us. We need a fresh opinion. You step inside, and they make room for you at the table. Someone hands you a cup of watered wine, and you take a cautious sip. Here's your central historical fact. Romans loved to debate, and political discussions were a standard part of daily life. Even in the insula, people argued about everything from the latest laws to the price of grain. These conversations could get heated, but they were also a way to build community and share ideas. Historians still debate the extent of ordinary Romans' influence on politics, but it's clear that everyone had an opinion and wasn't afraid to share it. The men introduced themselves: Gaius, a potter; Lucius, a carpenter; and Publius, who claims to be a poet but mostly recites other people's work. They ask you what you think about the new tax on olive oil. You shrug, admitting you're new to the city. Gaius laughs. Then you're lucky. You haven't learned to hate the tax collector yet. Lucius grumbles about the price of wood, while Publius launches into a poem about the virtues of cheap wine. You listen, amused, as the conversation drifts from politics to poetry to the best place to buy sandals. Here's your obscure fact. Some Roman insulae had their own unofficial mayors, respected residents who settled disputes, organized repairs, and served as intermediaries between the landlord and the residents. These unofficial leaders were chosen by popular opinion, rather than by vote, and their authority depended on their ability to maintain peace. They were the pillars of the insula's social structure, ensuring that everyone's voice was heard and that the community remained harmonious. You wonder who the mayor of your insula might be. Maybe it's the older woman with the pigeons or the baker with the best honey cakes. The men invite you to stay for lunch and you accept. The meal is simple: bread, cheese, olives, and a little dried fish, but the company is lively. Gaius tells a story about a runaway goat. Lucius complains about his neighbor's noisy rooster, and Publius recites a love poem that makes everyone groan. The laughter and shared stories around the table make you realize that, in the insula, meals are not just about sustenance, but about connection, about sharing life's joys and sorrows, and about finding humor in life's little absurdities. After lunch, you thank your hosts and step back into the hallway. The building feels different now, quieter and more relaxed. You hear the soft sound of a lullaby drifting from an open window, and you see a cat curled up in a patch of sunlight. You pause, enjoying the peace. In the insula, moments of calm are rare and precious. You wander down the hall, passing a group of children playing a game with sticks and stones. They invite you to join, but you decline, remembering your earlier failure with the spindle. Maybe next time, you say, and they nod, already lost in their game. You smile, grateful for their easy acceptance. You reach the end of the hall and find a small shrine tucked into a corner. It's decorated with flowers, coins, and a tiny clay figure of a household god. Someone has left a piece of bread as an offering. You pause, bowing your head in respect. These little shrines, scattered throughout the insula, are not just decorations but quiet reminders of the faith and hope that permeate daily life. They are a testament to the spiritual fabric that binds the insula together. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of the day settle on your shoulders. The insula is a world unto itself, full of noise and laughter, arguments and alliances, and dreams and disappointments. It's a rich tapestry of life, with each resident contributing their unique thread. You're part of it now, woven into its tapestry, adding your color and texture to the intricate design. Ready to see what the afternoon brings? The insula still has stories to tell, and you're right in the middle of them. As the day progresses, new characters will emerge, new conversations will spark, and new adventures will unfold. The insula is a living, breathing entity, and you're an integral part of its narrative. The afternoon sun slants through the insula's narrow windows, painting golden stripes on the dusty floors. You feel the building's energy shift again, as if everyone is taking a collective breath after the busy morning. The air is warm, but not stifling, and you hear the gentle hum of conversation drifting from open doors. Somewhere, a baby is crying, but the sound is quickly soothed by a lullaby sung in a language you don't recognize. In the insula, every floor is a different world, and every voice adds a new note to the building's song, creating a sense of community that you're now a part of. You wander down a hallway you haven't explored before. The walls here are decorated with faded murals, scenes of gods and heroes, painted long ago by someone with a steady hand and considerable patience. You pause to admire a picture of Neptune riding a chariot pulled by seahorses. The paint is chipped, but the seahorses still look proud, their manes flowing like waves. You wonder if the artist ever imagined their work would last this long, or if they just hoped it would survive until the next rainstorm. You pass a door that's propped open with a brick. Inside, a group of older women is gathered around a table, playing a game with dice and colored stones. They glance up as you pass, and one of them beckons you in. "Come, try your luck," she says, her eyes twinkling. You sit, and she hands you a pair of dice. The game is simple, but the rules change every round. You quickly realize that winning isn't the point. Laughing at the ever-changing rules is half the fun. Here's your central historical fact. Board games and gambling were popular pastimes in ancient Rome, especially among those who lived in insulae. Games like La Trunculi, a kind of Roman chess, and Tali, knucklebones, were played by people of all ages. Gambling was technically illegal, but that didn't stop anyone, especially not the grandmothers of the insula who could outbluff any senator. Historians still debate whether these games were more about luck or skill, but everyone agrees they were a vital part of social life. The women share stories as they play. One tells of her childhood in the countryside. Another remembers the great flood that once filled the insula's courtyard with knee-deep water. "We had to rescue the baker's cat by boat," she says, and everyone laughs. You realize that, in the insula, memories are shared like bread, broken into pieces and passed around until everyone has had a taste. This shared experience brings a warmth and camaraderie that you can't help but feel. One woman leans in, lowering her voice. "Did you hear about the fishmonger's daughter? She's learning to read." The others nod, impressed. Here's your obscure fact. While education was not universal, some girls in Rome did learn to read and write, especially if their families valued learning. In the insula, a child with a book was a rare and precious sight. You wonder what stories the fishmonger's daughter will discover, and if she'll write her own one day. You thank the women for the game and step back into the hallway. The air is thick with the smell of roasting garlic and herbs. You follow your nose to a small kitchen, where a man is stirring a pot over a charcoal brazier. He looks up and grins. "Hungry?" he asks, offering you a taste. The stew is rich and savory, filled with lentils, onions, and a hint of something spicy. You thank him, and he shrugs. Everyone eats together here. It's the only way to make sure no one goes hungry. You realize that, in the insula, food is more than just sustenance. It's a way to build community, to share comfort, and to turn strangers into friends. The shared meals in the insula bring a sense of comfort and unity that you can't help but feel. You wander back toward the courtyard, where the children are now playing a new game, something involving a ball and a lot of shouting. You watch for a while, smiling at their energy. One of the older boys waves you over, and you join in, laughing as you try to keep up. You're not very good, but no one seems to mind. In the insula, effort counts for more than skill and everyone gets a turn. You pause to catch your breath, leaning against a sun-warmed wall. You hear the distant sound of a flute, and you close your eyes, letting the music wash over you. The insula is noisy, crowded, and sometimes chaotic, but it's also full of moments like this, small pockets of peace hidden in plain sight. You remember the older man from the rooftop, and you wonder what stories he's telling tonight. You think of the women spinning wool, the men debating politics, and the children chasing dreams up and down the stairs. You realize that, in the insula, every day is a new story, and every person is both a character and an author. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find happiness in the little things. A game of dice, a bowl of stew, a song at sunset. You decide they're right. In the insula, life is what you make of it, and every day is a chance to start again. You take a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the afternoon sun on your face. The insula is still buzzing with life, and you're right in the middle of it. Ready to see what the evening brings? The story isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. As the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, the insula shifts once more. Shadows stretch across the courtyard, and the air cools, carrying the promise of evening. You hear the distant clang of a bell, signaling the end of the workday. Doors open, and people spill into the hallways, their voices rising in a cheerful chorus. The building feels like it's waking up all over again, ready for the night's adventures. You wander back toward your room, passing neighbors who greet you with smiles and nods. A group of young men is gathered near the stairs, tuning a battered lyre and arguing about the best song to play. One of them spots you and waves you over. "We need an audience," he says, grinning. "Otherwise, how will we know if we're any good?" You sit on the steps, and they begin to play a lively tune that has everyone tapping their feet. Here's your central historical fact. Music was an essential part of daily life in ancient Rome, and the insula was no exception. People played instruments, sang songs, and even danced in the hallways and courtyards. Music brought people together, helped them celebrate, and made the hard days a little easier to bear. Historians still debate what ancient Roman music sounded like, since no recordings exist, but they agree it was a vital part of community life. As the music drifts through the building, more neighbors gather. Someone brings out a drum, another claps along, and soon the whole hallway is filled with rhythm and laughter. Even the older woman with the pigeons joins in, tapping her cane in time with the beat. You realize that, in the insula, everyone is welcome, no matter how old, young, or musically challenged. The song ends and the crowd cheers. The musicians bow, and someone passes around a jug of wine. You take a sip, savoring the tart, earthy flavor. The conversation turns to plans for the evening. A shared meal in the courtyard, a game of dice, maybe even a little dancing if the mood strikes. You feel a deep sense of belonging, as if you've always been part of this community, and you are. You're part of the insula, where everyone is welcome no matter how old, young, or musically challenged. One of the young men leans in, lowering his voice. "Did you hear about the landlord's new rule?" he asks. "No more goats in the stairwell." The others groan, and someone mutters, "There goes my morning alarm." Here's your obscure fact. Roman landlords were notorious for making up new rules, often to keep the peace, or to keep the building from falling apart. Some rules made sense, like no fires in the hallway. Others, like no singing after midnight, were mostly ignored. You wonder how many rules you've already broken without knowing it. The conversation drifts, and you find yourself talking to a woman who's just moved in. She tells you about her old neighborhood, where the insula was so rickety that the walls shook every time someone sneezed. "At least here, the walls only shake when the children are playing ball," she says, smiling. You realize that, in the insula, everyone has a unique story about where they came from and why they stayed. The diversity of these stories adds richness and complexity to our community. As the evening deepens, The courtyard fills with the smell of roasting meat and fresh bread. Neighbors bring out dishes to share: stew, olives, fruit, and a mysterious pie that everyone claims to have made. You join the circle, passing plates and sharing stories, laughing at both old and new jokes. Someone starts a game of riddles, and you're surprised at how quickly the time passes. You glance up at the sky, now painted with the first stars of the night. The insula glows with lamplight, each window a tiny beacon in the darkness. You feel a profound sense of peace, knowing that you're surrounded by friends, even if you only met them today. This feeling of comfort and friendship is what makes the insula a true home. The night deepens, and the insula's energy softens. The laughter in the courtyard fades to a gentle murmur, and the last notes of music drift away like fireflies. You find yourself wandering the hallways, guided by the flicker of oil lamps and the occasional glow from a neighbor's open door. The building feels different at night, quieter, but not silent. You hear the soft creak of wood, the distant bark of a dog, and the low hum of voices sharing secrets in the dark. It's a comforting reminder that you're not alone but part of a larger, interconnected community. You pause at a window looking out over the rooftops. The city is a patchwork of shadows and light, with lanterns glowing in the distance. Somewhere, a group of revelers is still awake, their laughter echoing through the streets. You wonder what stories are unfolding in the other insulae tonight, what songs are being sung, what dreams are being dreamed. In a city this big, you realize you're never truly alone. There's always someone awake, always a neighbor with a story to tell. You wander back toward your room, passing a door that's slightly ajar. Inside, a family is gathered around a table, playing a quiet game of knucklebones. The children giggle as they try to outsmart their parents, and you smile, remembering your childhood games. The mother looks up and waves you in. "Come join us," she says. "We have room for one more." You sit, and they teach you the rules, a mix of luck and skill with just enough cheating to keep things interesting. As you play, you can't help but notice the diversity of the family. The father, a Roman soldier, the mother, a Greek merchant, and the children, a beautiful blend of both cultures, a testament to the rich tapestry of life in the insula. Here's your central historical fact. Knucklebones, also known as astragali, was one of the most popular games in ancient Rome. Playing with small bones or stones was a favorite pastime for both children and adults. The game could be simple or complex, depending on the player's mood. Historians still debate the exact rules, as every family seemed to have its version. But everyone agrees. Knucklebones were a way to pass the time, to bond with family, and to forget the worries of the day. The game ends with much laughter and a few playful accusations of cheating. The father winks at you. In this house, the youngest always wins. It's tradition. You thank them for their hospitality and step back into the hallway, feeling lighter than before. In the insula, kindness is a currency, and there's always enough to go around. You make your way to the stairwell, where you find a group of neighbors gathered around a storyteller. He's an older man with a voice like gravel and a talent for making even the most ordinary events sound magical. Tonight, he's telling a tale about a runaway goat, a clever baker, and a very confused magistrate. The crowd listens, spellbound, laughing at the punchlines and gasping at the twists. In the insula, stories are as important as bread, nourishing, comforting, and best when shared. They keep the nights alive with their magic, weaving a sense of warmth and togetherness among the listeners. Here's your obscure fact. Some Roman storytellers, called fabuli, were so popular that they traveled from building to building, performing for food or a few coins. Their tales ranged from heroic epics to everyday mishaps, and they often improvised based on their audience. You wonder if tonight's storyteller is one of these wandering performers or just a neighbor with a gift for words. Either way, you're grateful for the magic he brings to the night. The story ends, and the crowd disperses, each person carrying a piece of the tale with them. You linger for a moment, savoring the warmth of the shared experience. You think about all the stories you've heard since arriving in the insula, the arguments, the jokes, the whispered secrets. You realize that, in a place like this, every day is a new chapter, and every night is a chance to start again. You head back to your room, feeling the gentle pull of sleep. The hallway is quiet now, with only the soft glow of lamps to light your way. You pass a window and look out at the city one last time. The stars are bright, and the air is cool. You take a deep breath, letting the peace of the night settle over you. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find comfort in the company of others. You decide they're right. In the insula, every night is a reminder that you're never alone and that even the slightest kindness can light up the darkness. You slip into your room, close the door, and lie down on your straw mattress. The sounds of the insula lull you towards sleep. The creak of wood, the distant laughter, the soft sigh of the wind. You feel safe, cocooned by the building's walls and the gentle presence of your neighbors. There's a feeling of security that allows you to rest peacefully. Ready to drift into dreams? The insula will be here when you wake, with new stories to tell and new friends to meet. For now, let the night carry you gently into sleep, one peaceful moment at a time. Morning returns, as it always does, with a gentle nudge rather than a jolt. You wake to the sound of water being poured into a basin, the soft scrape of a broom on stone, and the distant call of a street vendor hawking fresh fruit. The insula is already alive, stretching and yawning as the city wakes. You sit up, rubbing your eyes, and listen to the familiar symphony of daily life. You step into the hallway, greeted by the smell of baking bread and the faint aroma of herbs. A neighbor passes by, balancing a basket of laundry on her hip. She smiles, her eyes bright with the promise of a new day. "Morning," she says. "Don't forget, market day is today." You thank her, making a mental note to visit the stalls later. In the insula, market day is more than just shopping. It's a social event, a chance to catch up on news and gossip, and maybe find a bargain or two. You wander down the stairs, careful to avoid the usual puddle of olive oil. The building feels fresh, as if it's been washed clean by the night. You pass a group of children playing with a wooden hoop, their laughter echoing off the walls. One of them waves at you, inviting you to join. You decline but promise to watch their next race. In the insula, promises are made and kept, even if they're as small as cheering for a child's game. Here's your central historical fact. Roman markets, or fora, were the heart of city life. People from all walks of life gathered to buy and sell goods, exchange news, and socialize with one another. The market was a place of commerce, but also of community. Historians still debate the extent to which business was conducted in the markets versus private shops, but everyone agrees that the forum was the place to be seen. You make your way outside, blinking in the bright sunlight. The street is crowded with vendors selling everything from fresh vegetables to pottery to cheap jewelry. You wander from stall to stall, sampling olives, admiring colorful fabrics, and listening to the lively banter of the sellers. You spot the baker from your insula, proudly displaying his honey cakes. He waves you over, offering a free sample. You accept, savoring the sweet, sticky treat. As you explore the market, you overhear a heated debate between two women about the best way to cook lentils. One insists on adding garlic, while the other swears by a pinch of cumin. You smile, realizing that, in Rome, food is a serious business and everyone has an opinion. Here's your obscure fact. Roman cooks often used a fermented fish sauce called garum to flavor their dishes. The smell was strong, but the taste was beloved by many. You spot a jar of garum at a nearby stall and decide to pass it by. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. You continue through the market, stopping to watch a street performer juggle clay pots. The crowd cheers as he balances 3 pots on his head, then bows with a flourish. You toss him a coin, and he winks, promising to teach you the trick if you come back tomorrow. You laugh, imagining yourself juggling pots in the insula's courtyard. You should stick to spinning wool. You return to the insula, your arms full of fresh bread, fruit, and a small bundle of herbs. The building feels welcoming, its walls glowing in the midday sun. You pass neighbors chatting in the hallway, sharing news from the market, and swapping recipes. You realize that, in the insula, every day is a chance to connect, to share, and to belong. The sense of community here is palpable, wrapping you in a warm embrace. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find happiness in the little things. A loaf of bread, a friendly smile, a promise kept. You decide they're right. In the insula, every day is a new beginning, and every neighbor is a friend waiting to be made. The joy found in these simple things fills you with a sense of contentment and deep appreciation for the insular life. You head back to your room, ready to enjoy your market treasures. The insula is alive with possibility, and you're right in the heart of it. Ready to see what the afternoon brings? The story continues, one gentle moment at a time. The anticipation for the afternoon's adventures fills you with excitement and keeps you engaged in the insular life. You settle back into your room, the sunlight streaming through the small window and painting patterns on the floor. The bread you bought at the market is still warm, and you break off a piece, savoring the crusty outside and soft, chewy middle. You set the rest aside for later. After all, in the insula, you never know when you'll need a snack to share with a neighbor or a hungry child passing by. The building is quieter now, the morning rush fading into a gentle lull. You hear the distant sound of a flute, the soft thud of a broom, and the occasional giggle from the courtyard below. You decide to visit the upper floors, curious about the neighbors you haven't met yet. The stairs creak under your feet, and you pass a young woman carrying a basket of figs. She smiles shyly, offering you one. "From my uncle's farm," she says. "Best in the city." You thank her, biting into the sweet fruit. It's delicious, and you tell her so. She beams, and you realize that, in the insula, compliments are as valuable as coins. You reach the top floor, where the air is cooler and the light is softer. The hallway is lined with doors, some of which are open, while others are closed. You hear the sound of someone singing, a gentle, lilting tune that makes you want to linger. You follow the music to a small room where an older man sits by the window, tuning a battered lyre. He looks up and nods, inviting you in with a wave. "Music keeps the walls from closing in," he says, plucking a few notes. "And it keeps the neighbors from arguing, most of the time." Here's a significant historical fact. Music was not just entertainment in ancient Rome. It was an integral part of daily life. People played instruments, sang songs, and even composed their tunes. In the insula, music was a way to connect, to celebrate, and to soothe the stresses of crowded living. Historians still debate what Roman music sounded like, but they agree it was everywhere, from the grandest villa to the humblest apartment. The older man plays a song for you, his fingers moving deftly over the strings. The melody is simple but beautiful, and you find yourself humming along. He smiles, pleased. "Everyone has a song inside them," he says. "Sometimes you just need a little help to let it out." He tells you stories of his youth, of festivals in the Forum, of midnight serenades, of neighbors who became friends over a shared tune. You realize that, in the insula, music is a bridge between generations, a thread that ties the past to the present. As you leave, the older man hands you a small wooden flute. "For you," he says. "Play it when you need to remember you're not alone." You thank him, touched by the gesture. You tuck the flute into your belt, feeling its weight. A reminder that, in the insula, gifts are given freely with no expectation of return. You wander back down the stairs, pausing to listen at each door. You hear the sound of children reciting their lessons, a woman telling a story, and a man practicing his Latin. You realize that, in the insula, learning happens everywhere, not just in schools but in kitchens, courtyards, and hallways. Here's your obscure fact. Some insulae had informal schools, where children learned to read, write, and do simple arithmetic. The teachers were often older residents, passing on their knowledge to the next generation. You wonder what lessons you might learn if you stayed here long enough. You step into the courtyard, where the afternoon sun has warmed the stones. A group of neighbors is gathered around a table, sharing a meal. They wave you over, offering you a seat and a plate of food. You accept, grateful for the company. The conversation is lively, ranging from the price of olives to the latest news from the Forum. Someone tells a joke, and everyone laughs. Even the pigeons seem to join in, cooing from their perch on the roof. You notice a small shrine in the corner of the courtyard, decorated with flowers, coins, and a tiny clay figure. Someone has left a fresh loaf of bread as an offering. You remember the shrines you've seen throughout the insula, each one a quiet reminder of faith and hope. You bow your head in respect, feeling a sense of peace. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find beauty in the everyday. A song, a story, a shared meal. You decide they're right. In the insula, every moment is a chance to connect, to learn, and to belong. You finish your meal, thank your neighbors, and step back into the sunlight. The insula is alive with possibility, and you're right in the heart of it. Ready to see what the evening brings? The story continues, one gentle note at a time. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the insula's courtyard. The air cools, and the building seems to sigh, settling in for the evening. You hear the familiar sounds of neighbors preparing for the night, pots clanging in kitchens, children being called inside, the soft murmur of voices sharing the day's news. The insula feels like a warm embrace, wrapped in the golden light of dusk. The smell of cooking wafts through the air, and you can almost taste the evening meal. The sound of children's laughter adds a joyful note to the scene. You wander the hallways, flute in hand, and find yourself drawn to a group of children gathered around an older woman. She's telling a story, her voice rising and falling like music. The children listen, wide-eyed, as she weaves a tale of heroes and monsters, of clever foxes and foolish kings. You sit nearby, letting the story wash over you. In the insula, stories are as important as bread, nourishing, comforting, and best when shared. Here's your central historical fact. Storytelling was a cherished tradition in ancient Rome, especially among those who lived in insulae. Stories were not just tales, but a way of preserving history, teaching lessons, and entertaining young and old alike. The weight of our collective past was carried by these stories, making them the glue that held communities together. The older woman finishes her tale, and the children beg for another. She laughs, promising to tell more the next day. The children scatter, their laughter echoing down the hall. You thank the woman for her story, and she smiles, her eyes twinkling. Everyone has a story to tell, she says. Don't forget to share yours. You continue your walk, passing neighbors who greet you with smiles and nods. You hear the sound of music drifting from an open window, a gentle melody played on a lyre. Music, like storytelling, was a vital part of insula life. It was not just for entertainment, but also healing and community bonding. You pause, listening, and feel a sense of peace. The insula is noisy, crowded, and sometimes chaotic, but it's also full of moments like this, small pockets of beauty, hidden in plain sight. You find yourself back in the courtyard, where a group of neighbors is gathered around a fire. They're roasting chestnuts. The smell is sweet and earthy. Someone offers you a handful, and you accept, savoring the warm, nutty flavor. The conversation flows easily, transitioning smoothly from one topic to the next. Someone asks about your day, and you share a story about the older man and his lyre. The group laughs, and someone suggests you play your new flute. You hesitate, but the encouragement is gentle and genuine. You lift the flute to your lips and play a simple tune, the notes rising into the evening air. The neighbors listen, some closing their eyes, others swaying to the music. When you finish, they applaud, and you feel a warm glow of belonging. In the insula, every talent is celebrated, and every effort is appreciated, making you feel not just valued but an integral part of the community. Here's an obscure fact. Romans believed that music could influence one's mood and even their health. Some doctors prescribed music as a remedy for sadness or anxiety. You wonder if your little tune has made someone's day a bit brighter, or at least distracted them from the price of olives for a few minutes. The fire burns low, and the group begins to drift away, each person heading home to their corner of the insula. You linger, watching the flames dance and listening to the quiet sounds of the building settling in for the night. You think about all the stories you've heard, the songs you've sung, the meals you've shared. You realize that, in the insula, every day is a new chapter, and every night is a chance to start again. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both, and that the secret was learning to find comfort in the company of others. You decide they're right. In the insula, every night is a reminder that you're never alone, and that even the slightest kindness can light up the darkness. You head back to your room, feeling the gentle pull of sleep. The hallway is quiet now, with only the soft glow of lamps to light your way. You pass a window and look out at the city one last time. The stars are bright, and the air is cool. You take a deep breath, letting the peace of the night settle over you. Ready to drift into dreams? The insula will be here when you wake, with new stories to tell and new friends to meet. For now, let the night carry you gently into sleep, one peaceful moment at a time. You wake to the gentle hush of dawn, the insula still wrapped in the soft blue of early morning. The city is quiet, as if holding its breath before the day begins. You lie in bed for a moment, listening to the distant coo of pigeons and the faint clatter of a milk jug in the hallway. The air is cool, and you pull your blanket a little tighter, savoring the last moments of peace before the world stirs. Eventually, you rise and step into the hallway, your footsteps muffled on the worn stone. The building feels different at this hour, calm, almost sacred. You pass a neighbor lighting a lamp at her doorway, her face gentle in the flickering glow. She nods to you, and you nod back, sharing a silent greeting that needs no words. In the insula, even silence is a kind of conversation, a thread that weaves us all together in this communal tapestry of life. You make your way to the courtyard, where the first rays of sunlight are just beginning to touch the stones. The air smells fresh, tinged with dew and the promise of baking bread. You find the older woman from last night, already feeding her pigeons. She smiles, offering you a handful of crumbs. "They remember kindness," she says, watching the birds flutter and peck. "That's why they always come back." You scatter the crumbs, and the pigeons gather around your feet, their feathers shining in the morning light. Here's your central historical fact. Romans believed in the power of omens and signs, especially those involving birds. Augurs, priests who interpreted the will of the gods, often watched the flight of birds to predict the future. Even ordinary people paid attention to the behavior of animals, looking for hints about what the day might bring. Historians still debate how seriously these omens were taken, but everyone agrees that birds were a constant presence in Roman life. You watch the pigeons for a while, then wander back inside, feeling a little lighter. The insula is waking up, slowly and gently. You hear the sound of water being poured, the soft scrape of a broom, and the first laughter of children playing in the hall. You pass a door where a mother is braiding her daughter's hair, both of them humming a tune you recognize from last night's fire. You smile, realizing how quickly songs and stories travel in a place like this. You decide to visit the kitchen, drawn by the smell of fresh bread. The baker is already at work, his hands dusted with flour, his face glowing with pride. He offers you a warm roll, and you accept, savoring the simple pleasure of good bread. "Best way to start the day," he says, winking, "and the best way to make friends." You thank him, and he grins. "Come back at noon. I'll have honey cakes." You promise you will, and you mean it. Here's your obscure fact. Some Roman bakers used special stamps to mark their bread, identifying the bakery or even the family who made it. These stamps helped prevent theft and made it easier to return lost loaves. You look at your roll and notice a tiny mark pressed into the crust. A simple design, but a reminder that even bread has a story in the insula. You wander back to your room, passing neighbors who greet you with sleepy smiles. You hear the sound of a flute from an open window, the notes drifting through the air like a gentle breeze. You pause, letting the music wash over you, and feel a sense of peace. The insula is noisy, crowded, and sometimes chaotic, but it's also full of moments like this, small pockets of beauty hidden in plain sight. It's a place where even the most ordinary moments can be extraordinary. You sit by your window watching the city come to life. The rooftops glow in the morning sun, and you see neighbors hanging laundry, sweeping doorsteps, and sharing quiet conversations. You realize that, in the insula, every day is a new beginning, and every neighbor is a friend waiting to be made. It's a place where you're not just a resident but a valued part of the community. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find happiness in the little things. A loaf of bread, a friendly smile, a song at sunrise. You decide they're right. In the insula, every moment is a chance to connect, to share, and to belong. You finish your roll, savoring the last bite, and stand to stretch. The day is just beginning, and the insula is alive with possibility. You hear the children laughing in the courtyard, the baker singing in his kitchen, and the older woman telling a story to anyone who will listen. You realize that, in the insula, you're never alone. There's always someone to share a meal, a song, or a story. You take a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the morning sun on your face. The insula is still buzzing with life, and you're right in the middle of it. Ready to see what the day brings? The story continues, one gentle moment at a time. Step into the insula, a vibrant Roman apartment building. The day unfolds at a leisurely pace, each hour bringing new sounds, faces, and stories. You spend the morning assisting a neighbor in repairing a broken stool, your hands becoming familiar with the rhythm of the work. The neighbor expresses gratitude with a cup of watered wine and a tale about a goat that once found itself on the roof. You chuckle, realizing that even the furniture in the insula has a story to tell. You wander through the building, stopping to chat with the women spinning wool, the children playing games, and the men debating the latest news from the forum. Each person you meet has a unique story and perspective, adding to the rich tapestry of the insula's community. You share a meal in the courtyard, passing plates of bread, cheese, and olives. The conversation is lively, full of jokes and gentle teasing. Someone starts a song, and soon everyone joins in, their voices rising in a joyful chorus. You realize that, in the insula, music is the language everyone speaks. Here's a key historical fact. Roman insulae were more than just buildings. They were vibrant communities, each with its traditions, routines, and rituals. People celebrated festivals together, mourned losses together, and supported one another during difficult times. The level of support neighbors provided to one another is a topic of debate among historians. However, the stories that have survived suggest a profound sense of connection and a deep-seated sense of belonging. You are not just a resident but an integral part of this living, breathing community. As the afternoon fades, you find yourself on the rooftop, watching the city glow in the golden light of sunset. The rooftops stretch out before you, a patchwork of tiles and chimneys, each one hiding its world of stories. You hear the distant sound of a lyre, the laughter of children, and the soft coo of pigeons settling in for the night. You feel a sense of peace, knowing that you're part of something bigger, a living, breathing community, woven together by shared moments and simple joys. You remember the old man's words, "No one ever found a place quite like this." You realize he was right. The insula is noisy, crowded, and sometimes chaotic, but it's also full of kindness, laughter, and love. You think of all the people you've met, the baker, the storyteller, the children, and the older woman with her pigeons. Each one has left a mark on your heart, a reminder that, in the insula, everyone matters. The shared experiences and memories in the insula evoke a sense of nostalgia and connection to this unique community, making you feel included and part of a lively, vibrant community. Here's your obscure fact. Some insulae had their festivals, celebrated only by the residents of that building. These festivals included shared meals, music, games, and even small parades through the hallways. It was a way to create a sense of identity and pride, to turn a simple building into a true home. You wonder what festival your insula might invent. Perhaps a day to honor the bravest child, the best baker, or the most creative storyteller. As night falls, you return to your room, tired but happy. You light your lamp and sit by the window, watching the stars appear one by one. The city is quiet now, the insula wrapped in a gentle hush. You hear the soft sounds of your neighbors settling in for the night. The creak of a bed, the murmur of a lullaby, the distant bark of a dog. You feel safe, cocooned by the building's walls and the warmth of your community. The insula is not just a place but a sanctuary that provides comfort and safety, allowing you to rest peacefully, knowing you are in a secure and comforting environment. Historians still debate whether the insula was a place of hardship or a place of joy. Some say it was both and that the secret was learning to find comfort in the company of others. You decide they're right. In the insula, every night is a reminder that you're never alone and that even the slightest kindness can light up the darkness. You lie down, letting the sounds of the insula lull you towards sleep. The building breathes around you, steady and strong. You close your eyes, knowing that, when you wake, the insula will be waiting, full of new stories, new friends, and new adventures. Now, let the night carry you gently into dreams, one peaceful moment at a time. And now, as the story of the insula settles into the softest part of the night, you find yourself floating in a gentle sea of calm, the world around you slowing to a peaceful hush, every sound softened, every worry faded, every heartbeat steady and sure. The walls of the insula, once alive with laughter and song, now cradle you in their quiet embrace, the gentle creak of wood and the distant coo of pigeons blending into a lullaby that wraps around you like a warm blanket. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the faintest scent of bread and flowers, and you feel the weight of the day slip away, replaced by a deep, comforting stillness. You remember the faces of your neighbors, the kindness in their eyes, the warmth of their smiles, and you know that, here in the heart of the insula, you are never truly alone. The city outside fades into a blur of golden lights and soft shadows, and you let your mind drift, following the gentle rhythm of your breath, with each inhale and exhale taking you a step further into rest. The stories you've heard, the songs you've sung, the meals you've shared, all become part of a gentle dream, a tapestry of memory and hope, woven together by the simple magic of belonging. You are safe, you are home, and the night is yours. Let sleep come softly, like the hush of dawn, and may your dreams be filled with peace, comfort, and the quiet joy of knowing you are exactly where you need to be.